All right, everybody, welcome back to the Sarah Centrella Show. And man, I gotta tell you, I've been looking forward to this conversation ever since I got the introduction by our mutual. We have a couple mutual amazing friends, but I'm telling you, just looking at your story, I'm so inspired by it, and I cannot wait to jump into this conversation. Amberly Lago, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and honored to be here. And I just appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, this is so incredible. And shout out to Rudy, our mutual friend Rudy, who was on my
Oh,
show a couple weeks ago. And we connected immediately, and I had his beautiful wife on the show, and same. And as soon as we got off that recording, he was like, "You have to meet my friend Amberly." And I was like,
oh,
"Absolutely, I would love to." So I'm just really excited to dig into this. I mean, my all my listeners kind of know my backstory. It was all started with, like a big rock bottom moment. And I've always been very fascinated by people's backstory. We get into that kind of to start off every episode on the show here. But yours is really, really incredible. I mean, it just kind of lays waste to a lot of, of the obstacles people kind of think they can't overcome. I think you're just a living example of you really can. So can you take us back just briefly and tell us a little bit about, when your world kind of came crashing down and what that looked like, and what you've been through to get here?
oh, yeah. Well, thank you. And I'm so grateful that we got introduced. Yeah, who would have thought I never would have imagined I would be sitting like at a computer doing a Zoom because 6 years ago, I didn't even own a computer. I didn't own a computer. I wrote my entire book. 90% of my book, I hand wrote on a notepad like this. Like I'm
Wow.
big on these notepads. And my whole world changed. I was in the fitness industry for 26 years
Wow.
and loved it. I mean, I was sponsored by Nike. I employed several other trainers. I regularly contributed to Health and Shape magazine for articles. I was doing infomercials and fitness videos, and in the blink of an eye, everything changed. I was coming home from work on my motorcycle, cruising along down Ventura Boulevard, and this SUV, I was in LA, this SUV shot out of a parking lot and T-boned me. So when I saw it coming, I tried to jump off my bike and there was nothing I could really do beside let off the clutch and try to jump, and it was too late. I was
Oh my
T-boned, thrown
gosh.
30 feet, sliding across the asphalt. And when I finally came to a stop, I looked down at my leg, and it's crazy to look down at yourself and see yourself completely disfigured. I mean,
Oh,
my leg was completely crumbled into pieces. I felt like my leggings were the only thing holding my leg together, and there was blood everywhere. I didn't know at the time that my femoral artery was actually severed.
oh my God.
And talk about, God helping and being there. I had this guardian angel, I swear. I still don't know who this guy is to this day, but he ran over, took his belt off, and made a tourniquet on my leg. And he basically saved my life because when your femoral artery is severed, you can bleed out within 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
There were paramedics right down the street. They started running towards me before they even got the call because they heard the accident. So the paramedics were there. I was taken to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, it was crazy. There were so many cops in the room. They thought that maybe I was a cop that had gone down, and it's because my husband was a lieutenant with the highway patrol, and news travels fast in the police force. And so there were so many friends there that were cops, and he was there, and there was just this loud wailing, like crying. And I was like, what is that? And
Yeah.
I was so like, I was not crying. I was so laser focused on what had to be done. I'm sure I was in shock.
Yeah.
But I was like, what is that sound? And it was my husband. I'd never seen him cry. He's a big, strong, tough guy. And I was taped to the gurney, but he was like running back and forth. And I yelled across the room. I said, honey, I need you to get over here and be strong for me. Because at that moment I thought, oh my gosh, I think I
Yeah.
might be dying. And I need to know he is going to pull it together and be there for our two daughters. And he came over and he held my hand. And that's the last thing I remember before this beautiful nurse, her name's Shaniqua, and she leaned over me and she said, I'm going to give you something to make you feel all better. And they put me in a coma, and I was in a coma for a little over a week. And when I woke up, the first thing that I learned was the doctor said, I'm so sorry, we're going to have to amputate your leg. You have a 1% chance of saving your leg. There's really nothing we can do for you. It's like a war wound. And in that moment, all I heard was 1% chance. I have a chance. And I was like, well, 1% chance? I need to find a doctor who's going to be willing to take that chance with me.
Yeah.
And it took an act of God. We got transferred to a different hospital, and I had a doctor who believed in saving my leg. And it took 34 surgeries and months in the hospital, but they saved my leg.
Wow. That is, I mean, that is so incredible. And I love the part you hung on to, right? You're like, it's a thread of hope. I will take the thread.
Hmm.
I always tell people when, they ask, like, how can you believe in a different outcome? How can you believe in something you can't see? How can you believe that something is possible? And I'm like, listen, if there's a 1% chance, why wouldn't you be all in on that? I mean, it's better than zero. There's an opportunity there. And I can't imagine being in a position that you were in and seeing that as at all a green light. I think most people would hear the 99% chance of this never happening again. And so what you talk a lot about resilience, and you would have to have endless amounts of it. I can only imagine, to go through what you went through. But how did you tap into that? How did you, maybe cling to that 1%, build that up, or did you?
Oh, yeah. And I think Uh, you know, whether you're listening and you're like, well, I can't relate to that. I've never been hit by a car. I think that we've all been hit by something, especially in the last couple of years, whether it's our health, our finances, our relationships, we've all been hit by something, and we have a never ending supply of resilience within us. And we just have to learn how to tap into it, and we have to work on it and build it before we need it. It's an ongoing thing. It's not like I got through this and I'm resilient and all of a sudden life is better. Oh, heck no, man. I still go through ups and downs and new levels, new devils. There's always something to overcome. There's something. I had a client of mine send me this long voice memo yesterday, and she's like, my book was kicked off Amazon and I was so excited. And have you ever done that where you've launched something and you've been excited and something goes wrong? And I messaged her back, welcome to the world of
All the time.
entrepreneurship. I mean, all
All the
the
time.
time,
Yep.
all the time. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
things don't always go as planned. They often don't go as planned. And I think the first thing that I really think that being an athlete and a professional dancer for years really helped me, because I had the mindset. It wasn't only the mindset, it was the faith that I had. And believe me, I prayed every single day. It was the connections. It was the people that came in to see me and support me. It was the clients that I was always for them, always there for them. Now they were there for me. They were coming to see me
Right.
in the hospital. But I think it really, really starts with mindset. And I'm going to just tell you, I got a lot of haters that came after me after I said it starts with your mindset. When
I bet.
I was on the doctor's TV, and I was diagnosed as a result of this accident. I was diagnosed with this incurable nerve disease. They say it's incurable. Um, Called complex regional pain syndrome. And that's where the healing journey really began, because I live in constant chronic pain. I mean, even as we're sitting here
Imagine.
right now, if I showed you my feet,
Cannot
I'm
imagine.
sitting here with one shoe on and one shoe off. I mean, seriously.
34
Want,
surgeries. Yeah, I can't
want me to
imagine the
show you?
amount of pain and reconstruction. Oh my God. Yeah.
No, I've got one shoe on and one shoe off, because here's my other foot. Oh,
Oh.
I don't know if
Oh
you
my
can see.
gosh.
If you're watching this on YouTube or whatever, you
Yeah.
will see that it's still ongoing. And I got a lot of haters that came after me after hearing my interview on the doctor's TV because I said, "Hey, it starts with your mindset." And they said, "Hey, woman cures her
Right.
pain through her
Yes.
mindset." But guess what? It does start with your mindset.
100%.
And
100%.
oh yeah. And I really, because I was laying there in the hospital. I remember one night in particular, I was laying in the hospital bed and I had these rods that held my leg together and these strips of yellow bandages that had like this Vaseline stuff on them. And because my leg was completely exposed. And every 3 hours, the nurses would have to come in and rip those bandages off and replace them with new ones. And so the pain, it was like re-breaking my leg every single time they lifted
Uh,
my leg up to do that. And I would just look at the clock and dread when those nurses were going to come in. And I remember this one night, I'm up all night in pain, and there was this beautiful woman running across the beach and her family chasing her. And it hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, what if I what if they amputate my leg? What if I can never run again? What if my husband leaves me? What if my family doesn't love me anymore? What if I can't chase after after my kids and my leg is just going to, be amputated? Like the thoughts were just going and going, going. And then I was like, well, what if I die tomorrow? And I was spiraling into this anxiety and depression. And I was like, wait a minute, I got to stop. Like I can focus on that, or I can focus on what I do have. And I'm big on notebooks and
oh,
journals. And I
yes.
grabbed this little notebook that somebody had brought me in the hospital. And I started writing down all the things that I was grateful for. Every single
Love
nurse. I
that.
didn't I didn't want to forget their names. I wanted to say thank you, Shaniqua. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, like
Yeah.
for what they were doing for me. All the clients and friends and family that were coming in. Now, I was writing down thank yous to them, but I was also writing down to remember to write them a thank you note because I was so drugged up.
Yeah.
I didn't want to forget to write them a thank you note. And I realized writing thank you notes, something that I learned as a little girl. My mom was so insistent. Well, you got to write the thank you note
Mhm.
after every birthday.
Yep.
That really helped me get into that gratitude practice. And that is alchemy. It shifts what you don't have into what you do
Oh,
have.
could
And
not
it
agree
changed
more.
everything for me. It really
100%.
helps still to
Yeah,
this day.
100%. I always tell people it is the number one thing you have total control over. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it took me a long time to understand that I could control my thoughts because that seemed insane to me. I was like, what do you mean? They're just running around. What am I supposed to do about it? But once I started kind of figuring that out and learning how to replace them or learning how to even fantasize or daydream about something I wanted to do. So your image of, a woman running on the beach with her kids, even probably allowing yourself to daydream about that from time to time transports you into what's possible versus focusing on what's not, right? And I think
Yeah.
it was very similar for me in my kind of rock bottom when things were really black and my life fell apart. I just started fantasizing about, hey, what if I have a good day? And what if it looked like this? And what if I didn't have to worry? And what would that feel like? And just started kind of dropping into these like little moments. And I think it 100% saved me for one thing. It saved me in the moment,
Yeah.
going in those kind of dark spirals. But it also had this side effect that I had no idea back when I was doing it, that it could manifest those as new realities. And that just blew my mind in the beginning because I was like, wait a second, I just thought this was to make me feel better. But the more times I shifted focus away from what was going on in my day to day and started thinking about what I wanted instead, it gave me more hope, belief, opportunity, all of those things. Were there any tricks that you used or tools that you used to kind of help you change your mindset once you became really kind of conscious and aware of that? I mean, the gratitude piece is so huge. 100%. I think that's the best starting point for anyone,
Mm-hmm.
especially when things are going wrong, right? Because it's so hard to find those things to be grateful
Yeah, and you
for.
know what? I still have a gratitude practice. In fact, I use a app. I'm not affiliated with this app or anything by
Yeah.
any means, but I just use it because it helps. So, I have a group of ladies. We call ourselves the God Squad, and we message each other every single day, our gratitude practice. And so I use an app called, I think it's called My Spiritual Toolkit, and there's daily readings. It's a recovery, so I'm
Mhm.
sober, and it's a recovery-based app, but you don't have to be
Yeah.
sober to use it, but it just helps us because we can log in our gratitude, and it saves all your gratitudes, and then I can push a button and it sends your gratitude. So it's one thing to be grateful, another thing to write it down, another thing to share your gratitude list with your friends and read what they're grateful for. That really, really helps. But I don't think it's just about like, okay, what can I be grateful for? It's not
Right.
that. Like, you have to change the chemistry, the energy. And I knew that moving my body would help. And look, I went to a psychologist years ago. Um, when I had postpartum depression, and my husband was like, "You need to go get therapy because you're crazy." Like, he was like, and
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like hormonally, like it was crazy. I was a different person. And I went to this psychologist for help. And I said, "Hey, look, I had a cesarean. I couldn't run. I couldn't exercise. And I that's what I needed. That was like my usual therapy was working out." And I went to her and I said, "Hey, I know when I can just work out, I'm going to feel better." And she goes, "You know what? If you need to work out to feel better, then there's something wrong with you. You need to be on antidepressants." And
Wow.
so I swear, and I left that appointment. I never went back to her. I left that appointment and I called my husband crying, and I'm like, "You're right. I am crazy. They want me on, prescribed antidepressants." Well, look, nothing against that. I tried it. I threw up every day. My body completely rejected that. So as soon as I was able to start exercising again, running again, I was okay.
Yeah.
In the hospital bed, I've got people that tell me, "Well, I can't move.
Right.
That I'm in a hot." Well, guess what? You can always do something. When I was in a hospital bed, and I say bed bound, that means I couldn't stand up to use the bathroom on my own. I was using a bedpan for months.
Gosh.
I was just happy and celebrated when I got the catheter out. Like, let me tell you,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's very humbling when you have to ask somebody to take your bedpan for you. But I knew in the bed, the doctors thought I was crazy because I said, "Hey, I need a pull up bar installed over the bed." And they're like, "Okay." And then I asked one of my friends, I worked with him, he was another trainer, said, "Hey, can you bring me some weights so I can work out?" And I knew it wasn't like I was trying to get big and buff. That's not what I was
Right.
doing.
Right.
I knew that if I moved my body, it would release endorphins. It would make me feel like I was moving in the right direction. It would increase my confidence. It would build upon my resilience, and it would
Yeah.
just make me, I knew I was moving in the right direction. So I had a pull-up bar, I had some weights, and I was doing whatever I could to move my body, because when you move your body, it moves your mood. So those of you listening and you're like, "Ah, I feel stuck or I don't feel good." Go out and take a walk around the block if you
Right.
can.
Yeah.
If you can't walk, then what can you do to move while you're sitting? That means, do something to just move your upper body, do something to breathe, do something to move and to make yourself realize, "Hey, I'm alive. I've got
Absolutely.
breath. I can move. There's so much more that I can do instead of focusing on what you can't do."
Oh my God. That is such the key, everyone listening. Like, rewind it, let it sink in, write it on your phone, send yourself a voice memo. Like, that is the key. And it sounds kind of simple or too simple to work, but if you can find what works for you to make that switch. For me, I was a dreamer, so daydreaming helped me a lot to kind of focus on what I could do or the things that were going right versus not. But like, that shift of energy is everything. It really does start
Yeah.
to create momentum, confidence, opportunities, just all of it, right? It creates, I kind of think of it as a road. It creates a road ahead where one didn't exist before. And, I love that you were looking at it like, what can I control? There's so much of
Yeah.
that situation you had zero control over.
Yeah.
But
A
I always
lot.
think that if you're ever in a position like that, grab a notepad and just see if you can come up with two things you control. And there's always going to be one thing on that list, which is, what am I thinking about? How am I focusing on this situation? Like, we always have
Mhm.
at least that on the list. Like, we can control that. And then from there, we can move forward. But for you to say, like, hey, I know that this tool works for me, moving my body, that makes me feel better. I know that about myself. I know that whenever I've done that in the past, I've gotten, I felt better. So then finding a way to adapt it in that moment to keep moving you forward, I think is so key too, to just understanding ourselves and understanding what works for us. Are there any mindset, other kind of tools that have helped you to
Uh-huh.
reinforce new beliefs and helped you kind of create this new life that you have now?
Well, I thank you. That's such a great question. And I will say I love what you said about focusing on what you can control. And so much is of my journey is not just about my mindset. I had to like redo everything. Like I had to think about it was mind, body, spirit, like complete transformation. And so for me, I had to focus on what could I do to change. Like I remember, I will tell you, going to when I got out of the hospital, they had me go to a psychologist to assess what I was going to need. And every doctor, every single doctor was like, "Oh, you need to be on antidepressants. Like basically your life is ruined. Like you're deformed, you're in a wheelchair, you're told you'll never get out of a wheelchair. You lost your career. You've got $2.9 million worth of medical expenses. Like every single
Yeah, they're
doctor,
like, no one can
including,
handle this.
yeah, like even my gynecologist was like, yeah, you're going to need to be on antidepressants. And they put me on this one medication called Lyrica. And the main side effect is suicidal thoughts and weight gain. And I was like, I don't want to take that
Mm-mm.
medication. I don't want to gain weight. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
and the doctor told me something that changed my life. It changed everything for me. He goes, "Well, yeah, the main side effect is suicidal thoughts and weight gain, but you control your weight. If you start to gain weight, it's up to you to
right.
eat a little less or eat more
Work out,
healthy or
eat
whatever."
healthy. Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm in control of that. I may," because I felt so out of control
Sure, yeah.
having to take a medication, but when he put me in the driver's seat again, and that's the thing I want every single person, like, I want you to know that listening right now, you get to be in the driver's seat and you get to make the choices. So you can change the way you move your body. You can change the way you think. You can change the way you eat. You can change the way you pray. And one thing that really helped me, like that still helps me to this day, if you're feeling stuck or if you're feeling sad or you're feeling like, "Oh, things aren't just going the way that I want," go be of service. Go
Yeah,
help someone else. The one thing that has really, really helped me and it still helps me to this day, um, is I go be of service to someone. And I had somebody go, "Well, I can't be of service. Like I'm stuck in this position." And I'm like, "Well, I was of
yeah,
service even stuck in the hospital bed because I had nurses that came in once they found out I was a fitness instructor. Because back then that's what I did. I was
yeah,
in,
yeah.
in the fitness industry, and they came in and they were asking me exercise tips like, "Well, what can I do to work out to get a better booty?" I had
Right.
a chair in the corner and a little curtain that kind of covered it. And the nurses would come in and plop themselves down and sometimes cry to me and tell
Wow.
me what was going on. And I could offer them advice or just
Yep,
listen.
yeah.
I was writing out exercise tips. I was calling my clients. I was still being of service, even though I was in a hospital bed. So there's always something you can do to be of service. And you know what? When you can be of service to others and their success, that's where fulfillment really is. That's where
Oh my
the
gosh,
joy
yeah.
is.
100%. I think back to kind of the start of my journey, and you said at the beginning, like you never imagined you would be sitting here and that this would be your life. I absolutely never in a million years would have ever thought that I would either. But I think in my darkest hour, that's kind of what I just started sharing what I was going through, and started sharing kind of what was working and what wasn't working, and with no intention in mind, didn't really understand that it would ever do anything or help someone, but it did. And people would reach out to me and say, hey, that really inspired me, and what are you doing? And just sharing that. I mean, I was like, I'm no
Yeah.
guru, I don't know what I'm doing, I've never read a book on this, I don't, like, I have no idea, but I'll test it out and let you know, or maybe this is what I would do in that situation. And that was the start of the calling for me, because to
Oh.
see someone get benefit through something that I had been through, so I think all of us have that, right? We've all been through something. And I
Uh-huh.
think so often we're so stuck in our own world and stuck in our own thoughts and our own head and our own problems, where if we just kind of looked up and even started just by sharing something we learned or sharing something that helped us today, you just have no idea how much that can kind of come back to you and fill
Yeah.
you up. It is one of the, I mean, I started with a blog and I kept blogging for 5 or 6 years because it filled me up. And it was always just
Yeah.
shocking to me that anyone else got anything from it, because I was like, this is what fills me up. It feels
Yeah.
good, right? So I think everybody can do that regardless of kind of where they're at or what they've been through. We all have wisdom and knowledge that we can share. What made you kind of take that part on and say, okay, I have this one career that I've done my whole life, and really, you've been very successful at it, but the career you have now is totally beyond that. You've inspired people around the world, you've done incredible TED Talks, you've written a book. Like, where did that inspiration, I guess, come from?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think that I tried so hard after my accident to go back. If you look
Mm,
resilience up in the dictionary, it's to bounce back. Well, I
right.
tried going back and I was trying so hard to go back to training clients because I've worked with people. I started teaching dance when I was 13, and I went from teaching dance and being a professional dancer right into the fitness industry and working with clients. I love seeing that transformation in people. I kept trying to go back, and I remember there was one day I just had another surgery and I had one of those like orthopedic medical boots on, and I was training a client at the gym, and my husband was working out where I was training, and he comes up to me and he's like, "What are you doing? You are bleeding out across the gym floor." And my stitches had come open and I had a little trail of blood going after me. And I thought, this is not really serving my clients in the best way, and it's not serving me. So what can I do different? And so I really stopped and asked myself, well, what brings me joy?
Mm,
And I think it's important for anyone who feels stuck or they're not in a place where they're fulfilled is to just stop and go, what brings you joy? What do you really love to do? What lights you up? And for me, that's working with people. And I thought, well, how can I work with people differently? And I started, working with others. I went and got certified. Back then. It was like getting a life coach
right,
certification,
right.
but I started working with people one on one, and then I decided to write this book because I thought, you know what? This couldn't have happened for just no reason. Like,
Right.
if I can use this to turn pain to purpose and I can help one person, then I'm going to write this book. And I remember I was at the gym, and when I could finally bend my leg enough to ride the bike, because my leg was stuck straight and I had to work to get my knee to bend again. And I remember I would go to the gym and get on the bike. And this lady was sitting next to me on the bike, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, do you ever get tired of people coming up to you and just telling you all their problems?" Because it was like
One
a,
after
a revolving
the
door.
other.
People just came up to me and
Yeah.
they would just tell me all their problems and like, what should I do, and get advice. And I told her, I said, "No, actually," I said, "it turns pain to purpose. And if I can help them, It
Yeah.
fulfills me. And so, somebody said, you should really write a book. And like I told you before, I didn't own a computer, don't have a college education. And then when I said I wanted to write a book to some of my closest family members, they're like, "Ugh, you'll
Right.
never do that. Like, you're the fitness girl. You need to stick to that. Like, you don't
Yeah.
have a college education. You don't even own a computer. Who do you think you are?" And that's why I always say you should seek counsel and not opinion, because everybody's going to have an opinion,
Absolutely.
but you should go to people who've done the thing that you want to do. And so when I went to a publisher or an author who had published like 76 books, he was like, yeah, write a book. So I decided to write my book, and I'm sharing this for anyone out there who's like ever thought about writing a book. Like, this is your sign to do it. Just
Yeah.
do it. You can do it. If somebody like me can write a book, get it published, and by the way, was on the Today Show to launch it. Like,
So incredible.
anything is possible. Like, that is mind blowing to me that I actually wrote a book
Yeah.
that, and I just got back from an event. So I was speaking at an event this past weekend, and to have people come to me with tears in their eyes and say, "Oh my God, I read your book and it changed my life."
Yeah.
I'm blown
It
away.
still shocks me every single time.
Blown away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is and I could not agree more. I triple down on your message because, I was the same, and my writing started with my blog, but I didn't learn how to read till I was 15 years old. I taught myself how to read. I was quote unquote homeschooled. So I had like no education. I would probably in the beginning, most of the comments I got on my blog were trash talking my spelling and my punctuation. Like,
Oh my
like people were just always
gosh.
giving me shit about it. And I was like, listen, this is for me. Like, I'm going to put out what is authentic to me, what is, so to be able to get my first book published was the most unbelievable miracle of all time. Because
Well, I haven't
if
read
I
your
could
book
do it, anyone could do
yet.
it.
I can't wait to read your book.
I
I
know I'm
can't
going to
wait
send
to
you a
read your
copy when
book.
we get off. And I love yours, Grit and Grace. Like, and you have another one coming out too next year, you said. And I
Yeah.
just like, I love that you embrace what has happened to you and realize like nothing is ever random. I truly believe that. I truly believe there's a purpose for, most things that happen in
Mm-hmm.
our life. And it's up to us to kind of look for that and look for how we can change it, how we can create a new story, how we can learn, how we can grow. And but it's one thing to say that, it's another thing to do that. And you've done that, which is just
Oh,
really incredible.
let me tell you, I still battle with like self-doubt sometimes and things like that. And I love that I think you and I are a lot alike in that we're
Yeah.
like, okay, God, show me a sign. What is
Right.
going
Give me a
on?
sign.
And I remember it, like 6 months ago, I was sitting in my office and I was just filled with anxiety. I was like scared. I was about to go deliver a keynote, and I'm like, and it was only to like 300 people.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, you know what? Maybe this just isn't the thing for me. Like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this whole speaking thing. Like, I get
Right.
so anxious. I don't know, like, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if this is for me. And then my phone rings, and the whole screen lights up with my friend Ryan Stewman. His face is on the phone. And I'm like, oh my God, Ryan never calls me. Why is he calling me? And I get on the phone. He's like, hey, Amberly. I'm like, hi, Ryan. How you doing?
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm doing an event, and we're expecting about 4,500 people, and I'd love for you to be a speaker. And I was like, yeah, I'll be there. And then I get off the phone. I'm like, oh my God, 4,500. And I'm
Right.
like, okay, God, thank you. Thank
That's
you
the
for the
sign.
sign.
Yep. I can
There's
do
my
this.
sign.
I can do this. I should do this. There's a reason why these opportunities are coming into my life. And I think there's also something really pivotal that you said in those moments where you want to go back. Like a lot of times, a lot of us have been there, right? We thought, hey, we're successful in this one thing. This is my identity. This is who I am. This is what I do. And that's my only goal. I got to get back to where I was. And a lot of times we're so, I think, tunnel vision by that we can miss the redirection that the universe or God is trying to send us. And
Uh-huh.
for you to
And
kind of
yeah,
take that,
instead of trying to
yeah,
fix what's broken and go back and like just fix this, fix it, fix what's broken, why not look ahead at
and
what can we do that's new and different and bigger and bolder instead of going back and trying to fix that? What can we do ahead?
absolutely. And the best way to find that is, like you said, like what lights me up? What part of anything that I've ever done, I've been like, ooh, that was really fun. That got my juices going, or that felt really good. Maybe I don't have confidence in it yet because, it's not what I'm an expert in yet, but there was something about it that kind of pulled me. So look at what is going right, what is going well, what opportunities are coming. And I think that's a great way for anyone who's out there and going like, I don't know what my next move is. I don't know what my calling is. It probably is showing up in all of those little ways. We just have to be open to it and pay attention and say, hey, maybe my ultimate dream is showing up in a package I never ever expected because I don't know if this is true or not, but it certainly looks true. Your success is probably way larger and reaches a bigger audience now than it did even in the fitness industry, right? Like
Oh
I would think
yeah,
that
it's
your dreams have
different.
exploded and because you were open to the new possibilities and kind of changing direction a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times, what lit us up as a kid, like the things that brought us so
Yes,
much joy as a young, a young kid, like it's connected to
there. Yep.
what you do you believe that too?
Oh, 100%. When I was a kid, I had a crazy childhood, so I had no exposure to pop culture, no TV, no radio or anything. But even as a kid with none of that, I wanted to be a singer. And I imagined myself on
Really?
stage and I practiced with my brush or whatever and had that
Really?
goal always from like 9, 10 all the way up. That's what I always thought I would be. Thank God I'm not a singer. But the crazy thing is, I remember the first keynote I gave, I had this just out of body experience where I was like, oh my God, this is my 9-year-old dream. It's the exact dream I
I
had
just got
every
goosebumps.
day as a 9-year-old. It's just a different format. Yeah,
Wow. I just got
absolutely.
goosebumps. I
So great.
swear.
I love that.
Like that is wild because yeah, like for me as a young kid, I don't know why my mom let me do this, but I was little, like 7, 8, 9 years old. And after the football game, football's huge in Texas.
Yeah.
And after the football game, she let me go. The whole band would go to the Dairy Queen and um, they would put music in the jukebox and I would get on the tabletop and dance. And I loved it because of how it made everybody smile.
Yep.
And it wasn't that I
And it
loved them.
involved everybody and everyone was part of it. We're having a good time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I could see how much joy it brought people for me dancing. It brought them joy. And then it got to where everywhere we would go, people would say, Amberly, do a tap dance for them, do a dance for them. And so I would dance and I still dance to this day. In fact, I went to this big dinner and it was a table full of highly successful billionaire entrepreneurs. And then there was me. And I had my daughter with me, my 15-year-old daughter with me. And one of the guys said, is there anything your mom does? What does your mom do that really embarrasses you? And she goes, oh, she dances everywhere we go. She just dances. And I'm like, I do. I dance. I don't
Wow. I
mean
love
to.
it.
I dance in the store.
Yeah.
I dance on stage. And I had a speaker agent who told me, Amberly, do not go on stage and dance. It's unprofessional. Don't do that. And I was like,
You're like,
I
excuse me, this is who I am. When you book
I was
me,
like,
get the package.
I can't control it. It's not that I
Yeah.
plan it out. It's like it just comes out.
The energy. Yeah.
I can't control myself. I dance. And it's so crazy because it's what I love doing now is what I did when I was little. I was on stage and I could see that spark and that shift in people
Yeah.
and the joy come out. It's the same thing I do on stage now. I do dance a little, but when I speak and I can see that shift and that joy, that is so fulfilling. And
Yeah.
so it's so connected to what I did when I was little. Like you,
Yeah.
I'm doing it now. It's just a little bit different.
And I'm telling you, like that is it. That is the nail on the head. And the fact that like your experience and how you feel is almost the same. But now, because you were open, because you took those leaps of faith, because you tried something new and followed these the new direction and the calling, you have, you're probably dancing in front of the big speaking and dancing in front of way bigger audiences than you ever would before. And I think that's the beauty of it. I think when we're open to how our purpose finds us and we're willing to do things even though we feel like an imposter, even though we feel like everyone
Yeah.
can do it better than us, even though we feel like, oh my God, why would anyone listen to me?
Yeah. Thank
The,
you for saying that.
yeah, the amount of blessings and success can just be 10 times what your little brain ever thought it was, like we can't ever imagine how great it can be, but I think being open to it really gives us that opportunity to live it. So
Yeah. And thank you, Sarah. Seriously, thank you for saying like those things. Like, I think that a lot of times people see you and they're like, oh, she is just fearless. There's no way she ever
yeah,
has any imposter syndrome or any fear and anxiety. Or they see me and they see me on social media doing a TED talk or speaking on a big stage with all these other speakers. Oh, heck yeah. I
every
get
time.
anxious
Yeah,
for
yeah.
before every talk. The last event that I spoke at, somebody said, they're like, do you get nervous? And I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I get nervous. If I didn't get nervous, I would think there's something wrong
Something
with
wrong with
me.
you. Yeah,
But I always think about what helps is push-ups and prayer for sure. Like I do
yeah.
push-ups even yesterday. So I just moved my podcast to a new studio and I had a friend of mine, he flew in from Idaho to be on the show. And I'm like, just a minute, I gotta do my push-ups. And he's like,
I love
okay. He's like,
it.
I drink coffee, you do push-ups, but I
Yeah,
do
I listen to
push-ups.
hip hop. You can do push-ups.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I think about it's not about me. It's about the people I serve.
Absolutely.
This is
100%.
not me going on stage. It's not about me. It's about the people that I serve. And when I remember that, it helps me. It really helps me.
I love this so much. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom, sharing your beautiful story. I'll definitely link the book and your website and all that kind of great stuff in our show notes. Is there anything that you would like to share with everybody? Anything that you're doing that you're super excited about right now?
Yeah, actually, I am. I'm doing a lot of things I'm
I
super
know.
excited about.
Go follow
So,
Amberly on
so thank you
Instagram
for
for one thing.
asking. Yeah, thank you. You know what? I have a free gift for your listeners. Let me tell you, it's taken like 8 months to put this together, but I finally did it. I have a free video series for anybody who is like, I want to, really increase my influence and
Yeah.
impact, and I want to learn how to speak and get on stages and put together a keynote, or you want to podcast or do a book. I have a free video
Oh, I
series where
love
I
that.
give my tips and tricks, and you can find that if you go to Instagram at Amberly Lago
Perfect. And I'll link it here
Motivation.
too. Yeah, I'll link it
You
here.
can find all the links for everything, or amberlylago.com. But that's a free gift I can give to your listeners. I also have another free gift. If we talked a lot about resilience, and I put together a playbook how to tap into your resilience, and you can text me at 818-214-7378. Just text me the word grit and you'll get that free download. Just
Ooh,
the word
yeah,
grit. So don't, and
yeah.
then after you text that, it's me. It's really me texting you back. And I've had people go, is this you text? I'm like, yeah,
Yep.
it's really me texting you. So if you want to reach out, that's me. Ask me any questions. I just want you to know you're never alone on this journey, and it helps to come together. And if I've got a big event, Sarah, come
Ooh.
to Dallas
I
and
would
hang out.
love
Rudy's
to. I saw
speaking.
that you have an event coming up in Dallas. I would love to.
Oh my gosh. I do an annual event. It's called the Unstoppable Success Summit. This year it's April in Dallas, April 19th
Love
and
it.
20th. Sarah,
I
come.
would, oh my God, yes.
Like
100%
Rudy's
yes.
going to be there
10,000% yes.
speaking. I want to hug your neck.
I would love that. I would absolutely
Yeah.
love to. That would
Oh
be
my
incredible.
gosh.
That would be incredible. So, okay, everybody, I'm going to be there.
Oh, seriously, I want you to be there.
Absolutely.
John Gordon is speaking, Ben Newman, Rachel Luna, Rudy Rigsteins,
Yes, I love Rudy.
Henry Amar. I don't know if do you know
Amazing.
Henry Amar?
I don't.
Oh my God, Sarah, you would
Oh,
love
I
him.
love getting a new
Oh my
watch
God.
list. Okay.
Well, I love
Yep.
all of them. Like all the speakers are like really close friends of mine and I love them, but I would love to see you there and hug your neck. And I'm sorry, yeah, listeners, come.
Come.
Yes, I'm like totally
We're going to make it happen.
fangirling on Sarah. But yeah, come to the event. The tickets are early bird right now.
Perfect.
So they're
Perfect.
discounted. Yeah, come,
Oh my
come.
God. Can't wait. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Amberly, for all of this beautiful wisdom and sharing your energy with us today. And I
Thank
cannot wait
you.
to meet you in IRL.
Yes, and I gotta have you on my show.
I would love that. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have to sync it up in April. All right.
Yes.
Sounds great. Until next time, everybody get out there and hustle and thrive.